It's another Tuesday News Day. I'm Adventure Argonaut. Welcome to the Golden News. I will go through some of the interesting news and stories from the past week. But first, let's see that the streams are indeed working. Yes. And how about Rumble? I think all my 3 streams are running. Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. Indeed. Okay, that's good. So the biggest story of the week, I guess, would be Pokemon. These leaks. Oh, okay. Background image away. So the Pokemon leaks and the crimes against nature that certain Game Freak Nintendo employees might want to commit. Let's put it that way. So it's difficult to know where to begin with this stuff, but let's start with this. So Pokemon Maker confirms it was victim of hack. So some really naughty hacker did something naughty and hacked Nintendo and supposedly got away with lots of information and data and stuff. So yeah, Pokemon Maker Game Freak has confirmed it was the victim of a data leak after information appeared online over the weekend. The company, which has developed Nintendo exclusive video game series since 1996, said its servers were hacked in August this year. So Game Freak has been like responsible for all the Pokemon stuff. I didn't know that because back then when Pokemon first came out, nobody said anything about Game Freak. I've heard people talk about Game Freak for the I don't know for the past decade. So I thought it was moved to like a different company or outsourced. Who knows what? But I guess it's the same team. But I don't know if the employees are the same because I don't think any of the newer Pokemon are as iconic as the original batch, like Pikachu and Bulbasaur, Charmander, all that stuff. I think those are the really iconic Pokemon, and the others really can't compete with them. But anyways, so statement said that 2,606 items containing names, email addresses of current, former contract employees were accessed. The company did not comment on other information shared online, claiming to show details of unreleased and upcoming projects. So the Game Freak apologized for the inconvenience and concern it caused, and they are. Pokemon is developing upcoming Pokemon Legends Z to A, and they of course they are filing legal action against Palworld because Pocket Pair that make Palworld. I think this is basically a core tyrannical action. Like I've never played Palworld, not sure if it's a good game or not. But it at least was popular when it came out. And I don't think morally speaking, Nintendo has any right to sue them. And also, Nintendo has been harassing, persecuting people who make emulators and post ROMs of their old games online, which is not something I am fond of, especially especially if it's a game that Nintendo doesn't sell anymore. They have no right to, no moral right to harass people. And then there's the story, like that's I guess from a decade ago almost, but Nintendo was like shutting down people streaming Nintendo games. Like that's the most retarded part. I don't think they've done it in years, but still, what right, what legal right does a company have to shut down a stream if you show their something they produce. Like, let's say I buy a guitar, a Fender Stratocaster, and then I play a guitar solo and it and post it on YouTube. Like, can the guitar manufacturer sue me for like using their product? Like, it's ridiculous. But anyway, let's get to the alleged leaks. So I don't know if this is accurate or not. I don't know who this Pori guy is. But yeah, he says this is a nuclear grade leak. Switch to codename DS beta builds, unreleased game source code. 4chan Anon is a wanted man, holy fuck. So if this is true, it's great news. Like, it should help modders and stuff, people who want to mod Pokemon and stuff like that. And make a I don't know, good version of Pokemon. I haven't, like, the last Pokemon game I played is Pokemon Platinum on DS. That's when did it come out? 15 years ago or something. And yeah, so I don't know if there are good new Pokemon games, but I haven't been that interested even in trying them. Anyways, and there's another one. They have Generation 10 Pokemon game source code. It's actually over. I do have both Gaia and Ikaku source code. I wonder if Gaia, I think these are like code names, if Gaia means the Pokemon Z to A or something. No, I'm not sure what they refer. And, these are just allegations that people make on the internet. As far as I know, it hasn't been confirmed. But, if it's true, I wish only the best. I mean, the worst for Nintendo. And I do like, Nintendo products and, their games, generally speaking. But I don't like their practices. Like, they should focus on making good games and stuff and making people happy instead of persecuting like people and stuff like that. Like, if they don't like you, or if they think you're a threat, like they are like a corporate oligarch more than a game producer nowadays, the way they act. And then there's three different stories that I've seen so far. Like, supposedly some background lore for Pokemon. Like, I cannot be 100% sure that this is actually from the leak and not just from some weird fanfic forum. But people are sharing these, supposing they are from some Game Freak employee. Um, yeah, it was some woman called Use, allegedly a woman. You something. Let's have a look. Yeah, you Nakatsui or Suguru or Nakatsui Suguru. Like, there's different readings for the name. I guess I can add this here. Let's see if it works. Yes. Yeah. So allegedly, this person is the has written this, and then there's this document. Yeah, so I think this is like translated from Japanese, where it says, you Nakatsui and all that stuff. Like, so it could be also Suguru, but at least reading them, I do think it's more likely they've been written by a woman. But anyways, let's read the story. I don't know if I can read through all three of them, but let's start. This is like, I don't know, like this is supposed to be a children's game or children friendly. Of course, lots of adults play it too, but it should be, it shouldn't have excess sex and violence and butchery. But okay, let's just read. A theme: original sin based on current Pokemon world. In the distant past, when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was still blurred, there was a woman and her companions. Every day they were bored, so they would often catch Slakoth living in the nearby forest. They played cruel games with the captured Slakoth, sometimes killing them for fun, gouging out their eyes, cutting off their ears. So here is a Slakoth. It looks like a sloth. Um, One day the woman was walking alone in the forest and saw a slacketh hanging from a tree. She climbed the tree to catch it, but slipped and injured herself. At that moment a Vigoroth appeared. This Vigoroth had a torn ear. The woman, startled, tried to flee, but her injured leg hurt too much and she couldn't move. The Vigoroth with the torn ear suddenly attacked her when it saw her. The woman lost consciousness. And here's a Vigoroth. So I guess it's the evolved version of Slakoth, I assume. When she awoke, she was in an unfamiliar place. Before her lay a clear lake surrounded by trees, from which many Slakoth and Vigoroth were hanging. All the Pokemon bore wounds somewhere on their bodies, marks left by the woman and her companions. Upon closer inspection, she noticed that some of the Slakoth hanging from the tree were corpses, and they were the very Slakoth that the woman and her friends had killed and discarded. The Slakoth were throwing those corpses into the lake. Terrified, the woman tried to run away, but Slacking appeared. I don't have a picture, but yeah, I guess it's the third evolution. This Slacking also had a torn ear. The woman realized that this was the same Vigoroth she had seen earlier, and fear overwhelmed her, causing her to faint once more. When the woman regained consciousness, she found herself at the entrance of the forest near her home, surrounded by her friends. They carried her back to her house. Sometime later, the woman gave birth to a child, but it wasn't a human child, it was a Slakoth. She intended to abandon it, but couldn't bring herself to do it. She stopped a meeting with her friends and decided to raise the Slakoth. One day, her friends, concerned about her, visited the area near her home. They found the Slakoth sleeping there, the child of the woman. As they always did, they caught the Slakoth, stabbed it in the chest, and killed it. They took its corpse and headed to the woman's house. When she saw the slain Slakoth, the woman was overwhelmed with sorrow. She grabbed the Slakoth's body and ran deep into the forest. Her friends, shocked, chased after her. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the surroundings suddenly opened up and they found the same clear lake from before. Around the lake were many Slakoth and Vigoroth. The woman stood before the lake and holding the lifeless body of Slakoth, she threw herself into the water. Afterwards, the woman's friends began to treat Slakoth as companions, just as she had in her final moments. So yeah, it's a story in this children's game. It's a story about people that just like to torture and kill Pokemon, and then some of the tortured Pokemon later find a woman, and she passes out from the shock, and then one of the Pokemon rapes her, and then she gives birth to a Pokemon hybrid. This is like saying it out loud makes it seem even worse. Like I'm just wondering, like, is this really like is the author of this text really planning to have it in some Pokemon game, or is it just her head canon, or is it just for some fanfic site that she uses or something, or maybe she's planning to post this on her blog or something because but if it was from the Nintendo leak, so I assume this is somehow like official business, and I wonder if Nintendo knows about this stuff. Like, how will they react to seeing this crap? Like, will they be like, "Oh yes, yes, this is good, keep going," or like, will they fire her? Okay, let's go to the next story. So yeah, Nintendo had lore written going on in depth on human X Pokemon relationships. This leak is hilarious. Theme: the collapse of culture and relationship. There was a time when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was blurred. In a coastal village, there was a man I don't want to read the whole thing. I'll just pick out the important bits. So there was this man, and he was walking to the shore, and there was a female auxiliary washed up on the beach. It's an octopus. So a man and an octopus, a female octopus. You can imagine where this is going already. So the man had relations with the auxiliary and threw it back to the sea. And then he went to the spot again and had relations with it again. And many days passed, and the man had a dream. In the dream, the auxiliary spoke to him, I cannot come to you, but I will deliver our child to you. It is our child, yours and mine. So he went there, and there was a boy there, and he raised the boy. And so yeah, one day the young man was walking around the shore, and there was a group of people playing in the distance. They had swords, and there was a Sharpedo. I guess it's a shark Pokemon. I didn't look for the picture. Or a pedo. Okay. So yeah, the young man took the sword and went to the forest, and there was a Ursaring. It's a bear Pokemon. So it looks like a bear. And he tried slashing the Ursaring's mouth with the sword, and the mouth was easily severed. Then he stabbed at the Ursaring's eyes, and they were easily pierced. Finally, the young man thrust the sword in the Ursaring's chest, and the Ursaring died effortlessly. That day, the young man killed 30 Ursaring. After that, he always carried the sword with him, playing by injuring the Pokemon he encountered or cutting off parts of their bodies. So he was gathering firewood. There was an elderly Ursaring lying down. The Pokemon said to the man, "Come inside," and so he went to the den. And he saw there were people with scarred faces, and some were missing their eyes. They were chatting amongst themselves, but the young man ignored them and fell asleep. At one point, he woke up to find the elderly Ursaring lying beside him. He fell asleep again. Then, when he woke, there were many people around talking about something. Again, the young man ignored them and went back to sleep. When spring arrived, the elderly Ursaring spoke, "Do you want to go home? Then I shall send you home. When you return, a Wailord will soon be found near the village." I guess it's some Pokemon. I don't have the picture. Go there, we will send a man. You must leave the sword behind and bring a witness. Why did you do such things, cutting faces, slicing off noses? The elderly Ursaring escorted the young man back to the village. Upon his return, the young man recounted everything that had happened to the villagers. The following morning, the young man took some villagers with him, headed to the shore. As they walked along the coast, they found a large Wailord. Nearby on the beach was Teddy Ursa. When it noticed the young man, Teddy Ursa hid in the forest, and a large Ursaring came out of its place. As the Ursaring charged at him, the young man tried to draw the sword he had hidden, but it got stuck, so he couldn't pull it out. So he rushed at the Ursaring with his bare hands. The young man and Ursaring grappled, uh, punching each other's faces. They strangled each other with all their strength, and so they choked each other to death, collapsing on top of one another. The villagers went back and told others what they had seen. It's like, this is some clearly some fetish of, like, violence against Pokemon or animals, and sex with them. Like that's the theme. Like, people do bad things to Pokemon and have sex with them, and then they are punished somehow. It's like, come on, it's fucked up. And this is for a children's game. Like, I do. Part of me wants to just hear that, okay, this is just some fanfic and not in any way, supposed to be official stuff or any person. Not condoned by Nintendo in any way. That's, part of me wants to hear that that's the case, and another part wants to hear that no, actually, Nintendo is okay with it. And there's the last one. I guess this is probably the most famous one, so I guess I have to read the whole thing. The relationship between humans and Pokemon, human like ways of thinking. Long ago, when the boundary between Pokemon and humans was unclear, all of them started the same crap. There was a village somewhere. One day, a girl from that village went into the mountains to gather firewood. She found well dried dead wood deep in the forest, so she kept going further in. Further, she realized it. The sun was setting and she had lost her way. Around her, there were droppings from a typhlosion, which made the girl anxious. Just then, a man appeared from the other side of the forest. His face didn't resemble anyone from the village, but he was very handsome, the man said. You must be lost, right? I know the way down the mountain, but with your pace, it would be midnight before we get there. I'll take you back tomorrow morning. So why don't you rest at my place tonight? The girl had no choice but to agree to the man's suggestion. The man took her hand and began to walk. As the evening fell, they arrived at a large cave. This is my home. You must be hungry. Right, wait here. Saying that, the man went outside the cave. After he left, a red light shone from far away in the mountains, and there was a sound of trees swaying. Long before the man returned, carrying many red berries, he said, Eat this, then let's sleep for the night. Even if you wake up before I do, don't look at my face. Next morning, when the girl woke up, the man was still asleep. She honored their promise and stayed lying down, waiting. Before long, she fell back asleep. She was awakened by the man's voice. When she looked outside, the sun was already setting. Today we'll eat green berries. Wait here. Is it like, red pill, blue pill? Even although it's green. Anyways, with that, he went out of the cave. After he left, the same red light shone from far away, and the sound of trees swaying echoed once more. By the time the sun had set completely, the man returned carrying many green berries. He said, "Eat this, then let's sleep for the night. Even if you wake up before I do, don't look at my face." Um, The girl expressed her concern that her family would be worried and that she wanted to go home soon. The man yawned widely and tapped her on the head. At that moment, she completely forgot about her family and home. The two of them ate green berries together and then fell asleep. The same routine continued, with them waking up when the sun had set and the man going out to gather berries, and the two of them eating and sleeping together. Eventually, the girl realized that the man was a Typhlosion. Um, this is a Typhlosion. Here you can see the abilities, the hidden ability in here. So I think this is like Cyndaquil's some later evolution form. I don't know what is Cyndaquil at least. So yeah, he didn't recognize it was a Pokemon until this. She doesn't seem smart. As winter approached, the Typhlosion dug deeper into the cave and said to the girl, Go gather wood for firewood, break off the branches from higher parts of tall trees. The girl tried to do as Typhlosion instructed, but the tall trees scared her, so she could only climb the shorter ones. When she brought back some branches, Typhlosion said, That won't do. If it's not from higher branches, humans will find us. When the snow began to fall, the two of them lived in the depths of the cave, mostly sleeping. There was plenty of food. Occasionally they would wake up, eat, and then go back to sleep. One day when she awoke, the girl was holding a child. After several days and nights passed, the Typhlosion said, Your father is looking for you, but you are my wife, so I can't return to you. I will have to fight him. This is so fucked up, man. The girl pleaded, Please, don't do that. Don't kill my father. How can I live with you if you kill my family? You're a good person, so please stay here with me and sleep. All right, let's stay here and sleep. The man nodded. The next night, the Typhlosion woke, and the girl said, Your the Typhlosion said, Okay, your father is close by. Go and see. When the girl went outside, the snowstorm was raging. She climbed a low tree, broke off a branch. When she returned to the cave, Typhlosion was singing a song she had never heard before. You broke off a branch, didn't you? Soon your father will come here. I'm going to do something bad to your father. If I am killed, take my eyes, my voice, my heart. Build a fire at the spot where I was killed and burn them. And while they burn, sing this song until the fire goes out. The girl said, Please don't do it. Don't kill my father. If anyone is to be killed, let it be you. Goodbye. We will never meet again. I know. Goodbye. We will never meet again. With those words, Typhlosion went outside. After a while, there was a loud noise. When the girl looked outside, she saw her father had killed the Typhlosion. She rushed out and said to her father, Father, you have killed my husband. I have been living here with him all this time. He was my husband. Please give me my husband. Typhlosion's eyes, voice, and heart. The girl built a fire at the place where the Typhlosion had been killed and put his eyes, voice, and heart into the flames. She sang the song the Typhlosion had taught her until the fire burned out. The girl's father built a small hut on the edge of the village for the girl and her child to live in. Eventually, spring arrived. The young men of the village often teased and tormented the girl and her child. It became worse over time, and one day they tried to escape. Typhlosion's tried to drape Typhlosion's belt over them. The girl returned home and played it with her parents. Please tell the villagers to stop teasing us. If they put that pelt on us, we will surely become Typhlosion. We are already half Typhlosion as it is. Despite the parents' pleas, the villagers did not listen. In fact, they found it even more amusing and eventually draped the Typhlosion belt over the girl and her child. At that moment, they howled loudly and vanished into the depths of the forest. The two were never seen again, and so people came to understand Typhlosion are half human beings. This is clearly some fetish thing. So this story, to summarize it, it's about a Pokemon masquerading as a man abducting a girl. It's not clear what age the girl is. Is she like 8 years old or 16 or 22 or what? But abducting a young woman, let's call it that, and giving her some berries so she falls asleep, and then he sleeps with her, and then she has a child, and then her father comes to finally to kill the Pokemon, and then the woman is like Stockholm syndrome, like, oh no, please don't, that's my husband. And yeah, this is like in one sense, there's some merit to these stories, in the sense, like, they're supposed to be myths, I believe, and many myths are really weird and have strange stuff. Like, I think there's some ancient Korean myth about them having descended from somebody, a bear and a guy, or a female bear. I mean, female bear, a guy, or a woman and a male bear. I don't remember which way. Like, myths have stuff like that, or like, Zeus and the bull, or whatever, Minotaur and all that stuff. So in that sense, but it's like, it's a children's game. And but yeah, it's just, I really wish there will be confirmation about, like, the purpose behind these stories. That's just something I want to hear. Okay. But yeah, this is the Pokemon stories of this. There's these stories, and I do hope that lots of, I don't know, Nintendo secrets will be leaked, and we will hear about them and source codes and stuff, because Nintendo is behaving like a tyrannical asshole corporation, so they deserve to suffer. Here to the hackers. Okay, let's move on to the next story. See, there's the bride of the Pokemon. Okay, French farmers dump garbage on government buildings. I think they have done this before, or manure, garbage, something like that, but this is supposedly happening again. It's a small story in comparison to, that Pokemon stuff. I think this is quite, but yeah, yeah. Here is this guy saying, because I can take off this volume. There's nothing really except the sound of tractors, but yeah, it's happening. The French farmers are back and dumped garbage in front of the government building in a protest. Nothing about this on the news. Yeah, this is from like 2 days ago, and this I found this article from 3 days ago. French farmers aren't done yet, as shitloads, quite a load of fertilizer is dumped near the government buildings. Is this like AI translated like Pravda? This is the Russian voice of truth, right? But it's like shitloads. Like I do appreciate it that a news article is saying shitloads, is using that sort of language. But yeah, this is during the day, so I assume this is probably, this was during the day of the same protest, and then that was during the night. Oh yeah, there's some cool music. Yeah, so here it says as many as 50 tractors roll into Poitiers, Western France, as farmers demand fair wages and plummeting revenue margin. Blah, blah, blah. Farmers all over Europe have been in turmoil throughout the year as globalist governments attempt to kill industry by removing subsidies, increased fuel costs through Russian sanctions, and cheap Ukrainian grains. Yeah, so I just, the methods, like I think this is like the good first step, because you really, if you just protest and stuff without actually inconveniencing the politicians who are responsible for ruining your country, nothing will happen. Like I've had this idea for at least 2 decades that just theoretically speaking, politicians should be afraid to, if politicians are, corrupt and tyrannical and all that stuff, they should be afraid to walk down the streets of their country. Like, they should be afraid that somebody will punch them in the face. But, if they're good politicians, then people, of course, wouldn't want to punch them in the face. They just want to shake their hand or something. And I'm not saying go punch anybody in the face. I'm just saying like they should be afraid of the possibility. There's a difference. Like of course you shouldn't do that, but like in case you're a bad politician, like yeah, you should be a bit worried of the people. But let's move on. Move on. Sounds like a city in France. ZOG is real. So this is ZOG means Zionist occupied government. And, I wouldn't normally be sharing conspiracy theories like this, about especially anti Semitic conspiracy theories, disavow stuff like that. But this was posted by US Central Command 3 days ago. This is I assume it means the United Nations, United States, not United Nations, United States military central command, right? And I think it's like some Yom Kippur, some Jewish holiday. They are celebrating it, but it's like, do they do this stuff for Christmas or Easter or any Buddhist holidays or even Muslim holidays? Like was this Ramadan or Eid and stuff like that? I'm just curious. And there's like people commenting on it, like commenting to this. Remember, it's just a conspiracy theory, like the Great Replacement. ZOG. ZOG is a white supremacist acronym for Zionist occupied government. Why is it white supremacist? I'm confused. Like, if you are concerned that the your government is too much controlled by Zionists, then why does it make you a white supremacist? But anyway, yeah, which reflects the common white supremacist belief that the US and government is controlled by Jews. Why is it white supremacist? Like I've seen, black people say about that too. Chinese, like many Chinese believe that this is the case as well. I've heard such things, in China. They believe, yeah. So I'm confused. What makes it especially white supremacists? Especially, I thought Jews are white people. Apparently not. Um, like Kanye West, he said some stuff about Jews. Is he a white supremacist? He's a black guy, and yeah, he is, guys, quit saying Jews control the United States. What proof do you have? Lol. It's like, yeah, it's not like IPAC or America, Israel, whatever partnership association club, whatever its acronym for. It's not like they wield great deal of influence over the United States. It's like it's not like you get cancelled for saying stuff like that. Like actually, when I was making my stream, let's see if I get banned from some platform, because on Twitch I couldn't put ZOG in the headline because it was, oh, this might be naughty business. And there's this Polish politician saying some stuff.
We are being blackmailed by the Holocaust scary tale repeated here again and again. This is wrong. Israel is a terrorist state.
The time is over.
So
The next.
so this Polish politician Gregorz Brown saying that, sort of suggesting that he believes, I'm not saying that, but he believes that Poland is a Zionist controlled country, and he says that Israel is a terrorist state. Or he's sort of suggesting that Poland is, or at least that they're being blackmailed by Zionists and stuff. Interesting stuff. And I saw this article. This is from 91. I think this is from 1991 because somebody's written here, but it looks really old. I thought it's like from the 1920s or something. But Shamir says terrorism was acceptable for Jews, not Arabs. Associated Press, Jerusalem. Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, because he was, I think, the Prime Minister of Israel in the late 80s, early 90s, I think. So Yitzhak Shamir, recalling his days as a guerrilla commander, said yesterday that Jews were justified in using terrorism to win statehood, but that Palestinians are not. Personal terrorism is a way of fighting that it is acceptable under certain conditions and by certain movements, said Shamir. The Jews, stateless and persecuted, had no choice, he said, but the Palestinians are fighting for land that is not theirs. This is the land of the people of Israel. Shamir was interviewed by Army Radio on the 15th anniversary of the founding of the Lehi, the underground group in which Shamir fought British rule in Palestine in... Okay, it doesn't say. It's interesting. So he's saying that, for Jews, the terrorism is acceptable because here it says, Jews, stateless and persecuted, had no choice, he said. But now the Palestinians are stateless and persecuted. So doesn't that, by the same logic, now they are justified in using terrorism? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying anybody is justified in using terrorism, but that's sort of by the same logic. I think he would be saying that. Palestinians, currently speaking, they would be like, back in the whenever Yitzhak Shamir was the guerrilla commander. So was it in the 1930s, 40s, or whenever, before Israel was a state. Back then he was justified for using terrorism according to this logic, but now it should be reversed, right? And then there's, relating to this issue, Asmongold made some statement, this famous millionaire streamer.
If you want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people, they have genocide built into Sharia law right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people.
Okay. So he's saying that Sharia it has genocide written into it. And I do believe that, most Muslims believe in the Sharia, and he's saying that, people who believe in Sharia deserve to get genocided. Like, so he is basically saying, if I am correct, I'm not an expert on Islam, so maybe I'm wrong about it, and nor am I a supporter of Sharia. Like, I do think that, it's not the ideal uh, lawfare that there is, but I do not, like, I think that, if you disagree with Sharia, I think there are better methods of combating it than, trying to genocide people. Rather, I don't know, um, more diplomatic means than doing. But he's saying it's okay to genocide them. Let's listen to a bit more.
It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing. And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing. That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
Like, I'm not gonna dispute his claim that, Palestinian culture is inferior to Western culture. At least if we take Western culture a few decades ago. However, like, is Israeli culture really superior or equal? Just asking the question here. Um, and he did apologize for his words. As Mongold says, looking back on it, I was way too much of an asshole about Palestine thing. My bad. Of course, no one deserves to have their life destroyed, even if they do things or have views I find regressive. You guys deserve more than me saying stupid shit like that. I'll do better. It's like, I don't think it's genuine. He just, understands he's fucked up. He went too far, and now he's like, I do think it sort of reveals what kind of a man he is, like what he values. Like, he did say that genocide of these people is good, but I'm just, how much does he even know about it? Or, like, I don't know who might be promoting him or funding his stuff that he chose that particular side in this conflict. Um, And yes, then somebody pointed out what Asmongold had said a year ago. Just as the current conflict between Palestine and Israel started, weird as fuck to see so many people coming out with statements about the Israel-Palestine conflict as if they need to comment on it. Can we please stop this weird culture around expecting people with no relevant background or education to talk about world events politics? Yeah, but well, of course, you could argue that, during this year he has learned a lot about the conflict, and now he is an expert on it or something. Well, I'm not an expert on the matter, but I do have had an interest in the matter for a couple of decades already. Okay, what's the next? Okay, this was this story. Let's move on to the next one. So, well, I do want to show this picture still. Like, doesn't, a picture speaks 1,000 words. I know there's some Hebrew text written here. I can't read it, unfortunately. But, it does speak. But because, okay, I'll recount a short story because I live in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is, it is a part of China nowadays, but it's also a special administration region. So it's partially autonomous. From, here we use dollars. We don't use renminbi or yuan as in mainland China, and Hong Kong even has their own Olympic team and stuff. So it is has a distinct identity from just any other city in China. Um, but nowadays, here and there, you see these banners or like streamers with flags on them. Like there are flags with Chinese flags and then Hong Kong flags there, and the something I noticed that the Chinese flags are twice the size of the Hong Kong flags. That's of course to show superiority. And the same can also be said about the rainbow flags you see mostly in the West. They are also a sign of dominance, or also like nowadays Ukraine flags, or I don't know if it's still fashionable, but a couple of years ago it was very fashionable for everybody to use Ukraine flags. So I do think this is a similar kind of symbol. But let's move to the next story. And this is a fun story. So, robot vacuum spew racial slurs. Rock. I don't know why the AI decided to use rock as a slur in this image, but it did. I didn't tell it to do so, but I do like the image. Giving it a middle finger and saying rock. So, anyways, robot vacuums hack to shout slurs at their owners. Um, Here's the story. So, first reported by ABC News Australia, owners of robot vacuums across multiple US states experienced invasive hacking of their devices by individuals who took physical control of the cleaning bots and used their internal audio features to shout racial slurs at people in their homes. Owners first heard garbled voices coming from their devices, then noticed the vacuum's live feed camera and remote controls were turned on via the device's app. So it's fun story, but it's also, let's get back to the AI image. It also like begs the question, like, why is your vacuum cleaner hackable to begin with? Because the vacuum cleaners we used to have in the 90s and stuff when I was a kid, they weren't hackable. Like they're only hackable with an axe. Like if you want to bring an axe to it, then you can hack it. But it's like, why does it need those functions that you can do that? It's like once again I have to bring up the Battlestar Galactica card. In the remake of Battlestar Galactica from like 2 decades ago, the Silence, the race of robots that rebel against humanity, they destroy most of humanity by basically hacking all the interconnected devices that humanity has, but only Battlestar Galactica and some other spaceships survive from this because they have outdated systems that cannot be controlled remotely by the internet and stuff, so they are basically safe from it. It's like maybe we should learn something from that, but no, 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 no. Crazy conspiracy theorist having common sense. All right, let's move on to the next story. What do we have here? Sony patents sign language translator. Yeah, so they are patenting Sony patents to add real-time sign language translator in its games. So Sony patents to add real-time. Okay, I read that. New patent published by Sony wants to add real-time sign language translator in its video games. It aims to help deaf gamers communicate seamlessly in real time by understanding each other's sign languages. To ensure effective communication, the system can differentiate between simple gestures and many sign languages. There was something interesting here that I wanted to discuss. Let's see if I can find it. We have spotted a patent that discusses adding a real-time sign language translator in its games to help the disabled gaming community. It talks about how various sign languages can be translated during active conversations using avatars Use sign gestures to help deaf gamers communicate better. Yeah, so this stuff, it could change gaming for the deaf community. Yeah, help deaf gamers understand each other. So it's just the question is, of course, like some people commented here to this article that can they just read? Usually, deaf people can see, which is why they can either read or use sign language. Like, but maybe there is. I'm not deaf. I don't speak sign language, so maybe it would be preferable then to use see actual sign language or stuff. Okay, maybe it's a good idea. However, like, then why are they patenting it, like, or patenting? Yeah, it's a patent. Yeah, patent. So it means, like, basically, if the thing actually, they make it and it works, then they only, the deaf people are sort of held hostage by Sony, then, that they want to play using the sign language stuff, and oh, you have to use PlayStation, you have to use Sony stuff, you cannot do it on other platforms because that's the patent. Just sounds evil. Like, initially when somebody sees like something like this, it's like, oh, maybe it's a good thing. Like, although, you see Sony, it's difficult to assume it's gonna be anything good. But yeah, they're just competing, all these major game companies, and they're like, video game companies, that which one I hate the most. Like, Nintendo does something heinous, and it's like, oh, I hate Nintendo, and then Sony, and it's like, ah, Sony is even worse. And well, at least Nintendo has some good games still. For now. Okay, let's move on. CD Projekt Red, merit or DEI? And I do like this image. I want to see the prompt I added to the AI generator was CD Projekt Red hires based on merit pixel art, and I got this. I think it looks cool. Not sure if it's related to CD Projekt Red, except there's some red stuff here, and it's a round thingy like a CD. Anyways, so CD Projekt Red CEO Michael Nowakovsky, or is it Mikhail? I'm not sure how to, if it's a Polish name. Anyway, Nowakowski claims company hires based on merit, despite company's website claiming it embraces equitable practices and having scholarship program that excludes men. Yeah, so supposedly hires based on merit. So Novakovsky's comments came in response to a video from YouTuber Endymion, not sure how to pronounce it, where he alleged that a source informed him that CD Projekt Red is in absolute chaos right now based on who is actually working there that used to work on the previous games. He added, apparently it's of senior talent has already left CD Projekt Red. I guess most of the senior talent has left CD Projekt Red. For example, the director of Witcher 3 has long left the studio, and they've already created their own studio with their own new game as well. Apparently, places like Warhorse Studios, the makers of Kingdom Deliverance, they have actually been poaching talent from CD Projekt Red like crazy these past few years. He also noted, I was told that the problems are that are plaguing Ubisoft, like diversity hires, are also starting to damage and ruin CD Projekt Red as well. According to that other source, CD Projekt has begun to rely heavily on outsourcing to contractors to help with their games because the new talent that they have is nowhere near where they need to be right now. I was told the reason why the next Witcher is using Unreal Engine instead of Red Engine that previous games did is largely because most of the senior talent that worked and understood the Red Engine are not at CD anymore, and Unreal is more of a one size fits all engine that many devs are familiar with these days, he added. Yes, this seems to be a recurring problem in current day game industry that many companies are just starting to use Unreal Engine, and I've heard from other sources that it's supposedly because many of the old developers who used to work there, they either been fired or just left because of the DEI bullshit, so they don't want to work there. So, and the people who had the talent now, and everybody has to use Unreal Engine 5. And I know that I don't know a great deal about Unreal Engine, but I do know that the new Silent Hill 2 remake was made with Unreal Engine, and some people on Steam comments complained about it being buggy and not that good. So Endymion then reiterated, as I am told, CD Projekt Red right now is in a very tough spot, and they're apparently hoping that their pedigree is going to carry these games to millions in sales. CD Projekt Red right now is in a very tough spot. I think it should be, but they haven't spell checked this article, I believe, unless it's what Endymion said, and then it should be sick, like in brackets, SIC. In response to this video, Nowakoski posted on X, seems like we live in times where anybody can record complete nonsense and make a story out of it. CDPR talent leaving. We have the lowest rotation of people in recent years. He continued, DEI-driven recruitment. We hire based on merit and talent alone, just as we make games driven by artistic vision alone. Yes, artistic vision, like, Cyberpunk, that wasn't a functional game really when it came out. Like, now I understand it's been sort of fixed and better, but it wasn't when it came out. Next, he addressed why the company chose Unreal. Why did we choose UE? Because it enables us to work on our games more efficiently and we remain cutting edge tech wise. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so but I have heard about, I've seen the video from, I don't know, a couple of years ago maybe now, that the CEO of Project Red, CD Project Red, he was bragging about their ESG stuff, and then they have, if they have this scholarships program that excludes men, then this merit hiring practice sounds a bit dubious. It sounds like a lie. Let's move on to the next story, though. You don't own Metaphor RePhantazio and be happy. Yeah, this image, I didn't know what to generate, so I just, put random stuff about there. And, there were very many variations to it, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So there's this new JRPG from the makers of the Persona series, Metaphor RePhantazio. And here, this is the EULA from the demo, so this might be different in the whole game, but here it says, no right to ownership. You acknowledge and agree that you shall have no ownership or other property interest in the product, and you further acknowledge and agree that all such rights are and shall forever be owned by and inure to the benefit of Sega, except as expressly licensed to you herein all right, title and interest in and to the product and any and all associated copyrights, trademarks, and intellectual properties therein and of related to the blah 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 blah. Yeah, there's lots of bullshit, but yeah, you own nothing. Like, and there's of course the new law in from California that even Steam is gonna change to say that, when you quote unquote purchase a game from them, then they say it's just a license. And at first I was like, oh, that's a good thing because it's just being honest. But then it's like, yeah, maybe I was naive, because it reminds me of the situation like with Snowden around a decade ago, when his leaks about NSA spying on everybody and all that stuff came out. I was like, oh, it's good. People are becoming more aware and concerned about the government overreach. But it actually, that's not what happened, because I think the spying has gotten worse ever since, because it sort of normalized the issue. And now people are more like, they're just like assuming it's normal. Yeah, of course, your government and every corporation with enough money and power is gonna spy on you and sell your data and who knows what with it. It's just it's accepted. So maybe the California law stuff is just to make people accept it more easily, that they own nothing, and just be happy about it. Like, just be pleased. You have you pay $70 and you have license to this game for 2 months, and then they decide to take it away because, I don't know, you said something bad, or they don't like the way you look, or who knows what. Um, people don't hate governments and corporations enough. Let's go to the last story of the week. Silent Hill remake is DEI. Yes, just a short reminder that Silent Hill 2 remake has been confirmed as a DEI detected game involved with hit detection. So yeah, here it's from the credits. Hit Detection LLC is supposedly it's a DEI company like Sweet Baby Inc. So it's like okay, maybe to their credit, Silent Hill 2 hasn't been ruined completely. What I've heard, like, it's not like full on woke, but it's still, it should be better. Well, personally, I don't. I ranted about this last week already, so I don't want to get to it. But yeah, I don't see the purpose. Why do you need to make a remake of Silent Hill 2? The original is still good enough, and especially since I'm not convinced that this remake is better in all respects. Like, sure, there are bound to be some improvement, but other things are bound to be worse. And if it's DEI crap, I would boycott it just out of principle. But that's all the stories for this week, I guess. To recap, oh yes, Pokemon Nintendo. There's really it's perverse, these so-called myths about sexual relations with Pokemon, and sadistic torture and mutilation of Pokemon, and human Pokemon offspring. That's you know I do appreciate it, because it gives me something to talk about, and plenty of others, other YouTubers and streamers and stuff. It's interesting stuff, but it's also disturbing. And I am waiting for confirmation that this is, whether it's actually something that Nintendo has approved or not, or will they be firing the person who wrote this sexual fanfic. And just I have to show this image again. And how can you say that the phrase, when, at least when referring to the United States of America, how can you say that it's not a Zionist occupied government when you see stuff like that from the US Central Command? Like, Okay, let's see. Like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe when it's Christmas, they will be celebrating Christmas and every other major religious holiday. Maybe they will be celebrating it, but it seems a bit dubious to me. Um, but yeah, I hope I will have more Nintendo stuff to talk about next week in my next Tuesday Newsday Golden News stream. But tomorrow I plan on returning to Dark Souls 2. And so I'm gonna end the stream now. I thank you for watching, and please follow me on the platform you are watching me on or listening to me on. Bye bye.